While you're playing your guitar, you want to make people lean in on the verses and then blow them away on the chorus. What's up, guys? My name is Kyle Scott. Today I'm going to show you what palm muting is all about. Okay, many would say this is a beginner trick, a beginner technique, and that's probably true. It's pretty simple, but I've met a lot of players who are beyond the beginner level who don't do it very well. So I'm going to help you set the record straight and help you use this in your performances to make people interested in the songs that you're playing. So let me show you an example of this being used in a performance.
Never again, I just wish I could forget when it was.
Yeah, maybe I'ma get a little anxious.
Know how we've grown, but I can't wait to go home. I'm on my way.
If it's a good enough trick for Ed Sheeran to use, it's probably good enough for us. I'm gonna give you a chord progression. We're gonna do G, D, E minor, C. Would you look at that? Some of the first 4 chords you ever learned. This is gonna be so simple chord-wise. Now the right hand is what we're focusing on, or left hand if you're a lefty, is what we're focusing on today. So we're gonna play our G chord, but we're not just going to strum it. We're going to chunk it. So what you want to do is you want to rest the side of your strumming hand pretty much on top of the saddle here. Okay, right on the bridge area. Not right directly on it, but just inside it, okay? If you get too far in, you're not going to get a lot of sound, okay? But you're going to rest that here, and this is the way you first learn to do it. It advances beyond that eventually, and I'll show you how we do that. But making a G chord, you're just going to rest that there, and you're going to... Okay, now earlier I told you that even some beyond beginner players don't do this right. And the reason is a lot of times they end up going... right? Or more like, right, all over the place, but really focusing on the high strings. And honestly, it just doesn't sound as good to go. Actually, it's kind of cool in the right context. But in general, when we're on verses and we want something to make people lean in and keep them interested, we need that low end stuff. So we really want to focus our attention on the lowest 2 strings, maybe even the lowest 3 strings of our chord. Okay, so that's going to change based on the chord that you're playing. That's where it gets a little tricky. With the G chord, it's obviously these 3 strings, okay? And if you don't want that note in there, which sometimes I don't play, then you'll have it focused on just those 2, right? Or even the D string, right? You might hit all the strings, but the focus of your pick, the main energy comes in the lowest strings, okay? But imagine we're playing a D chord, right? When we get to a D, our lowest string that we usually want is the D string, right? You're always taught you don't play these 2 strings on the D chord because it gets kind of muddy, right? We don't necessarily want those. So you're gonna still have your hand back here on the saddle, but you're gonna just be moving your pick down to that D string. You see that? So for the G chord up here, for the D chord, if you can do that and not be too far inside to where you're getting no sound and not be too far back to where you're not muting at all, but find that sweet spot. That's a good place to start. Just keeping your hand rested. You'll see that my hand does not leave that spot. It doesn't come off. It doesn't slide around. It just happens all right here in the hand. Okay, the wrist kind of rotates. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, and what happens is you get sort of a rock and roll sound. Now we'll go to our D. We'll go to our E minor. We'll go to our C. Okay, and when you're playing a verses, I like to make YouTube videos. I think they're fun to teach guitar, right? Powerful song that I just wrote just for you. When you have that down, what you eventually get into is a little bit more relaxed sort of a palm muting. Okay, and you get that sort of, you can get a lot more volume if you really bounce that hand. You see, I'm now leaving the strings and I'm brushing as I come down. So my hand is hitting almost at the same time the side of my palm is hitting as my pick. So you've got this, and you can get more volume that way and less of the scrapey sound of your hand, which isn't a big deal, right? You can start right here and it sounds great, but you can lose that kind of brush scrapey sound if you start getting used to bouncing and almost like a sideways trampoline, right? hitting at the same time, palm and pick. So let's do a chord progression verse, and let's do a chord progression chorus, and then you can apply this to your own songs. So we're gonna go G, D, E minor, C. We're gonna do that twice, but the second time around, instead of doing a C, we're gonna do an A minor and a D leading into a big chorus. And I'm gonna show you the power of this trick. Ready? Here we go. This is our verse. So I change my focus there. I come back to the low strings. I focus on the A string there with the C chord. We're back to the G. My pick is, oh, I'm kind of bouncing. You see that? I'm kind of bouncing. Okay, I'm gonna keep it steady for you beginners. This is the second time through. Here comes our E minor. We're starting to get to the chorus now. We're gonna open it up. We're gonna bounce a little harder. Here is the song. And here comes our verse. I like to sing. And everyone's like, oh, that chorus just boom, hit them in the face. And then you suck it back down, right? And these types of dynamics make a huge difference in your performance, okay? If you just strum big a whole song, it gets pretty boring pretty fast. You've got to have some layers to your songs. And palm muting is a really simple trick. It can be hard the first day or two, but you'll get it pretty quick. Focus your attention on the low strings of your chord. Make sure you know what the bass note of your chord is. If you're playing an E, it's obviously the E string. If you're playing an A, it's the A string. Okay, you might want the E in there, but probably not. Usually the A is your focus. And I'll end up bringing my thumb up to mute strings, right? If I don't want to hear that E, instead of just, focusing my pick there and making sure not to hit the E, I'll just bring my thumb up so it's being touched a little bit. Or you can use another finger to touch it. Right? Those things take a lot more practice, but for now I would just focus on the palm muting. Nice and choked, chunky chunk. And then when the chorus hits, start bouncing. Simple tricks can change the way you play guitar for the better. My name is Kyle. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, check out my 12-day quick chord course. It will help you so much in your chord changes and making them smoother, making them faster, making you have more fun. Check that out. There's a link in the description. Subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if you found this interesting. And I will see you on the next video.